Hello. Buenos días, buenas tardes, good morning, good afternoon, boys and girls. Today is Monday. Maybe for some of you, you feel like we're getting into some kind of routine, kind of. I know that my son today had school with his classmates over the computer today. So maybe some of you are noticing or have had a meetup with your classmates or maybe some of your friends. So today I know that that my son, actually two of the three of them had class today with their classmates, but all in their own homes. So we're gonna do this for a few more weeks, you know, and hopefully everything clears up and we can all go back and hang out with our friends. I'm excited about today because I have some cool stuff planned. Today, when I woke up this morning, it was raining. Estaba lloviendo. So that means it's raining. Lluvia is rain in Spanish. Can you say lluvia? Lluvia. So it was raining here. Estaba lloviendo. And I thought, man, I know exactly what we should read today. So I am going to start off today by reading you one of my favorite books, which many of you have probably read before. And there is a movie about it now, but Miss B always loves the books more than the movies. So I'm excited to read you Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs today. This is by Jan Barrett, who is amazing. She's got all kinds of lovely books there. And illustrated, drawn by Jan Barrett. So I'm excited to read you that. And also, afterwards, we're going to talk a little bit about the water cycle. And I'm going to teach you probably a new word. If you know about the water cycle, I'm going to teach you a new word. And I'm going to teach you water cycle boogie. So it's a little song to help you remember all of the words, the big words that are part of the water cycle. So, and then I have a guest meteorologist on with us today who's going to talk to us about clouds. So I'm excited for Miss B's audio reads today. I am very happy you're here. Happy in Spanish is feliz. Estoy feliz. I am happy that you are here. So that's a good one. And then if we remember last week, a great word to always remember in Spanish is gracias. Thank you. Gracias. Can you say that? Gracias. Gracias. So anytime your mom or your dad or your brother or your sister, someone's helping you out, you can say gracias. It's always good to say thank you in any language. All right, so we are going to read today Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs by Jan Barrett. Have you read this book before? Some of you have? Cool. We were all sitting around the big kitchen table. It was Saturday morning, pancake morning. Mom was squeezing oranges for juice. Henry and I were betting on how many pancakes we could eat. And Grandpa was doing the flipping. Seconds later, something flew through the air and headed toward the kitchen ceiling and landed right on Henry. After we realized that the flying object was only a pancake, we all laughed, even Grandpa. Breakfast continued quite uneventfully. All the other pancakes landed in the pan, and all of them were eaten, even the one that landed on Henry's head. That night, touched off by the pancake incident at breakfast, Grandpa told us the best tell-tall bedtime story he had ever told. Across an ocean, over lots of huge bumpy mountains, across 3 hot deserts and 1 small ocean, there lay the tiny town of Chew and Swallow. In most ways, it was very much like any other town. like any other tiny town. It had a main street lined with stores, houses with trees and gardens around them, a schoolhouse, about 300 people, and some assorted cats and dogs. But there were no food stores in the town of Chew and Swallow. They didn't need any. The sky supplied all the food they could possibly want. The only thing that was really different about Chew and Swallow was its weather. It came 3 times a day, at breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Whatever the weather served, that was what they ate. But it never rained rain, it never snowed snow, and it never blew just wind. It rained things like soup and juice. It snowed mashed potatoes and green peas, and sometimes the wind blew in storms of hamburgers. That sounds dangerous and delicious all at once. The people could watch the weather report on television in the morning, and they would even hear a prediction for the next day's food. When the townspeople went outside, they carried their plates, cups, and glasses, forks, spoons, knives, and napkins with them. That way they would always be prepared for any kind of weather. If there were leftovers, and there usually were, the people took them home and put them in their refrigerator in case they got hungry in between meals. The menu varied. By the time they woke up in the morning, breakfast was coming down. After a brief shower of orange juice, low clouds of sunny-side-up eggs moved in, followed by pieces of toast. Butter and jelly sprinkled down for the toast, and most of the time it rained milk afterwards. For lunch one day, frankfurters already in their rolls blew in from the northwest at about 5 miles an hour. There were mustard clouds nearby. Then the wind shifted to the east and brought in baked beans. A drizzle of soda finished off the meal. Dinner one night consisted of lamb chops, becoming heavy at times, with occasional ketchup. Periods of peas and baked potatoes were followed by a gradual clearing, with a wonderful jello setting in the west. The sanitation department of Chew and Swallow had a rather unusual job for a sanitation department. It had to remove the food that fell on the houses and the sidewalks and the lawns, and the workers cleaned things up after every meal and fed all the dogs and cats. Then they emptied some of it into the surrounding oceans for the fish and turtles and whales to eat. The rest of the food was put back into the earth so that the soil would be richer for the people's gardens. For the people's flower gardens. I love how the people of Chew and Swallow used every part of the meal, made sure everybody was fed, and then composted. I mean, how cool is that? Life for the townspeople was delicious until the weather took a turn for the worst. The Chew and Swallow Digest. Spaghetti ties up town. Record-breaking pasta fall. Record-breaking pasta fall causes chaos. Traffic snarled on Lower Intestine Street. One day there was nothing but gorgonzola cheese all day long. The next day there was only broccoli, all overcooked. And the next day there were Brussels sprouts and peanut butter with mayonnaise. Another day there was pea soup fog. No one could see where they were going, and they could barely find the rest of the meal that got stuck in the fog. The food was getting larger and larger, and so were the portions. The people were getting frightened. Violent storms blew frequently. Awful things were happening. One Tuesday, there was a hurricane of bread and rolls all day long and into the night. There were soft rolls and hard rolls, some with seeds and some without. There was ripe bread and rye and whole wheat and toast. Most of it was larger than they had ever seen bread and rolls before. It was a terrible day. Everyone had to stay indoors. Roofs were damaged and the sanitation department was beside itself. The mess took the workers 4 days to clean up, and the sea was full of floating rolls. To help out, the people piled up as much bread as they could into their backyards. The birds picked at it, but it just stayed there, and it got staler and staler. There was a storm of pancakes one morning and a downpour of maple syrup that nearly flooded the town. A huge pancake covered the school. No one could get it off because of its weight, so they had to close the school. That sounds like a delicious reason to not go to school. I would show up to school with my fork and knife and eat the giant pancake. Lunch one day brought 15-inch strips of cream cheese and jelly sandwiches. Everyone ate themselves sick, and the day ended with a stomachache. Ooh. There was an awful salt and pepper wind accompanied by an even worse tomato tornado. People were sneezing themselves silly and running to avoid the tomatoes. The town was a mess, and there were seeds and pulp everywhere. The sanitation department gave up. The job was too big. Everyone feared for their lives. They couldn't go outside most of the time. Many houses had been badly damaged by giant meatballs. Stores were boarded up, and there was no more school for the children. So, a decision was made to abandon the town of Chew and Swallow. It was a matter of survival. The people glued together the giant pieces of stale bread sandwich style with peanut butter, took the absolute necessities with them, and set sail on their rafts for a new land. After being afloat for a week, they finally reached a small coastal town, which welcomed them. The bread had held up surprisingly well enough for them to build temporary homes for themselves out of it. The children began school again, and the adults all tried to find places for themselves in the new land. The biggest change they had to make was getting used to buying food at the supermarket. They found it odd that food was kept on shelves, packaged in boxes, cans, and bottles. Meat that had to be cooked was kept in large refrigerators. Nothing came down from the sky except rain and snow. The clouds above their heads were not made of fried eggs. No one ever got hit by a hamburger again. And nobody dared to go back to Chew and Swallow to find out what had happened to it. They were too afraid. Henry and I were awake until the very end of Grandpa's story. I remember his goodnight kiss. The next morning, we woke up to see snow falling outside our window. We ran downstairs for breakfast and ate it a little faster than usual, so we could go sledding with Grandpa. It's funny, but even as we were sliding down the hill, we thought we saw a giant pat of butter at the top, and we could almost smell mashed potatoes. The end. If you love Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, there is a sequel to it. I'm not going to read it today, but It's called Pickles to Pittsburgh. And if you've never read it, it is actually the story about how they go back to the town of Chew and Swallow and see what happened there. So that's a fun story to read. Again, it's called Pickles to Pittsburgh, also written by Jan Barrett. All right, boys and girls, we're going to get up and move around. Before we do, while we do, I'm going to adjust all of this. But I told you I was going to talk to you about the water cycle. Now, some of you out there already know what the water cycle is, or some of you have an idea, maybe. The water cycle, it has to do with water. It's a cycle like bicycle, goes in a circle. So the water cycle is how water moves on our planet, basically how it moves on our planet from the clouds to the ground, back up to the air, up to the clouds, up to the ground. So the water, when the rain comes down and when you see a mist coming up from the trees, sometimes on a foggy morning, or when it's hot out and you see it evaporating, that's all part of the water cycle. So I'm going to show you some really big words, okay? And then we're going to dance with these words. So the very first word, maybe I'll start shifting things around here. All right, so here, you're going to come with me. We're going to stand up a little bit. Go ahead and stretch a little bit while Miss B tries to figure out the best way to do this here. Let me see. I got my little, I think this is going to hold up. Because once we start dancing, all right. So that's going to be there. But I'm going to hold this up for now. We'll stand up. So, condensation. Can you say that? Condensation. Condensation is when the clouds are forming up in the air. So when we do our boogie, you're going to form a cloud. And clouds are actually pretty heavy. They don't look like they're heavy, but they are. Ooh, condensation. And what happens when clouds get really, 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 really heavy? I know here in Asheville, we noticed it this morning. It started to rain, right? So that, the fancy word, rain, sleet, snow, is precipitation. Precipitation. So we have condensation, and then they get really heavy, and then we have precipitation all the way down to the ground. And then, this is one that a lot of people don't know, but I'm including it. This one's called transpiration. And if you look here, you can remember it, like a tree. So transpiration, the water from the ground is going to go up the roots, up the bark, out the branches and out of the leaves, and then it goes up into the air. And that, it goes up into the air. Then we have evaporation. So that is when the water goes up into the air, and then it turns into clouds, and then we have condensation, and then it rains or it snows, and we have precipitation, and then transpiration, the water coming up the roots of the trees all the way up, and then it goes evaporation into the air. So let's do the parts of the water cycle, and I'll leave this here. It might be hard to see. And we'll do our best with these big, big, big words. Ready? So we have condensation, precipitation, and then transpiration. You can't see my feet here, but you're going to go all the way down. You're going to go to your toes, and that water's going to come up your roots and up your tree trunk and out into the air. And then evaporation. All right? So we have condensation, precipitation, transpiration, and evaporation. You ready? So the water cycle boogie sounds like the wheels on the bus. So I'm going to do it. Please join me, and we'll do it a couple of times so that it starts to starts getting stuck in your head. So we have the water cycle boogie goes up and down, round and round, round and round. The water cycle boogie goes up and down, all through the town. We got condensation, precipitation, transpiration, and evaporation. Nice! Let's do it again. Are you ready? The water cycle boogie goes up and down, round and round, round and round. The water cycle boogie goes up and down, all through the town. We got condensation, precipitation, transpiration, and evaporation. Woo! Nice job, everybody. High five. You guys are awesome. So that is the water cycle. So you have learned some big words. You've learned yourself a little boogie today. Now I have a very special guest with me, and he is my guest meteorologist, and he's going to talk to us about clouds. Come on over. Come on over, Mr. Blake. Let's bring you down here. Awesome. This is my this is Levi Blake. How you doing today?
Good.
Good. Levi has been learning about clouds in school, and they've been doing all kinds of. They've basically been learning what kind of things meteorologists do, and I thought it would be cool if Levi taught us some of the clouds and told us about them. So why don't you want to tell us about this one, and I'll hold up the picture. What kind of cloud is that?
So,
You want to do it? Yeah, why don't you show us?
well, so these are cirrus clouds, and they're like thin, wispy clouds that are super high up in the sky. And I'm pretty sure that they mean that it's either good weather or weather's gonna change soon.
So those are cirrus clouds,
Yeah.
and they're like really wispy up in the air. Cool.
Yeah. And then these are cumulus clouds, and they're like the medium puffy clouds, and they're like in the middle of the sky.
So they're not all the way up, they're not all the way down, they're kind of like in the middle.
Yeah.
Okay. What are those called again? The poofy ones?
These ones are these ones.
This one?
Cumulus clouds.
What does that usually mean? It's like a nice day? What does that?
Yeah, probably.
Okay. Cool.
They can-
Cirrus clouds. I'm sorry, cumulus clouds.
They can appear pretty much like whenever around the whole year.
Cool.
So, and these are stratus clouds, and they're like if you're like high enough in the mountains, pretty much stratus clouds could be fog to you.
Whoa. So if you're really high in the mountains and it seems foggy, they could be stratus clouds?
No, they could be like fog.
It could be like fog. Oh, okay. So the stratus clouds are the ones that are way, way, way up there.
And they're like, no, stratus clouds are really low.
I'm sorry, Siri. Oh, okay. Stratus clouds are low. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And then cumulonimbus clouds, they're what has like lightning and thunder and stuff.
That's awesome. So I'm going to hold this up a little so you can see all the different cloud types. And I wonder if you can go outside and tell us what kind of clouds you have right now. Levi, will you check outside? What kind of clouds do you think we have out there?
No check.
Why don't y'all take a minute, if you can, and look out the window. If you can go outside, you can check it out. Cirrus clouds, are they cumulus clouds? Are they puffy? Cirrus are more wispy. Stratus clouds are lower. And the cumulonimbus clouds, they're kind of puffy and maybe look like there's a storm a-brewing. Levi, what do you see out there?
I think that I see probably stratus.
He thinks there's some stratus clouds out there. Very cool. Anything else you'd like to share with us about weather?
Not really, but also, these are just the clouds that I'm learning about.
Oh, so there's more clouds?
Yeah, there's a lot more clouds.
Well, this was a good start.
Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Like, these are the main clouds.
These are rain clouds.
No, the
Main
clouds.
These are main clouds. Awesome. Well, thank you for joining us. It's Levi, meteorologist, chief meteorologist at the Blake home. This is Miss B. Thank you so much for tuning in. We will see you tomorrow. Nos vemos mañana. Hasta luego. See you later.
Bye.